have the honor of Seyi Olulade. Yes, and we're discussing managing, I beg your pardon, we're discussing working ethics, employment contract and agreement. Seyi Olulade, are you still there? Can you hear us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I
Yes.
can hear you crystal clear. So,
Can you?
yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
All right, so
great,
I'd like to ask a question.
great.
It has to do with this NDA, non-disclosure agreement, some employers give their employees to sign. So the first question is it legally binding for an employer to give it as a condition of employment? And won't this sort of give the employer more leverage, more power to do certain things that might take the right out of the employee?
Well, it is very legal and it's legally binding. Every contract, even your relationships, let's even just say relationships that the contracts are not spelled out in black and white,
Mm,
right? If you have a friend and you've been friends for so long, somehow there's always a psychological contract of oath of secrecy. What we do here and what we say here is kind of you can't share with anybody. So it is legally binding that every organization would want to protect their business. They want to protect their intellectual property. They want to protect their business, against competition and against anything that would harm them. So it's part of one of those risk management policies policies that the organization puts in place to protect itself.
mm.
And it's more for and again it's actually for the employee as well, because as long as you continue to be in the employment of that organization, you have to do all you can to ensure that the organization prospers, it grows, and it's part of not divulging any information that comes out from from the organization.
All right. Thank you for that. We've seen cases where employees are falling into depression. They've gone very quiet. They are not their usual self again. And after some sort of investigation, or maybe when they even leave the organization, you find out they were probably being bullied, or they were facing some sort of harassment, but there was no channel to, voice out. So how can employment contracts adequately cater to these needs and address issues like workplace harassment, bullying, discrimination, amongst other things?
Okay, first, the employment contract does not make provision for that. An employment contract is the agreement of this is I've called you to come and work for me, or let's go into this to achieve this goal. I've stated what you're supposed to do. This is what guides this employment. But when it comes to anything that has to do with bullying and harassment, you could find all those kind of policies in the handbook, in
Okay.
the employment handbook. Now, we always say there's a clause that always says that the employment handbook is not a contract, but well, I'm not a legal practitioner, so I can't say for sure. But as long as it's a policy of the organization and I sign at the back of it, that I acknowledge that I've gone through this contract, and I understand and I stand to be guided by it, somehow it's become the policy has become like a contract. But so you find that such things like harassment, like anything that has to do with bullying and whatever, it depends on the organization. If they have it in their policy, they should guide. um, Organizations. It is also critical that when you have an HR practitioner that understands his or her role within the organization, the role of that individual along with management is to provide an enabling environment for all employees to be safe, to have psychological safety, to be safe, and to be able to thrive within the organization. So when it comes to bullying, it must be checked. And bullying comes in many ways, even in subtle ways. There are many things that can trigger bullying and that can be classified as bullying.
Let me
It
interrupt you
comes
for
in
a
many.
bit, Seyi Olulade.
Yeah.
Now,
Yes, please.
how about a situation where this discrimination or bullying or harassment is coming from someone at a higher position? What are the measures that the organization can take to, if imagine I'm being bullied by someone above me and I also need to secure my job, how am I confident that if I speak about it maybe to the HR, my job, that I still have job security and I wouldn't be threatened? I don't know if you get the picture I'm trying to paint. How can that
Yeah,
be properly
yeah.
managed?
Okay, first, it depends on if the organization has an open door policy. And one of the things I always say and advise organization as much as you can have an open door policy so that you don't start having huge attrition, exit of employees when your environment becomes toxic.
Hmm.
Then two, depends on I mean, if you have an HR manager, the HR manager must first understand that the person is there to protect both employee and also the management, right?
Yeah.
And you must be able to speak up. Yeah, we've seen instances where employees have spoken up, maybe reported senior. I mean, you can have what if the harassment is coming from the MD?
Hmm.
What then do you do? You understand? What do you do at that point in time? First, for me, I think you should first let the in confidence, which is one of the job of the HR person, which is confidentiality. First, to work up to the HR to let the HR know. Um, Hopefully, the HR has a voice on the table of management and is able to tactfully address it. If the organization has a disciplinary committee, they can take it up to that point. I've seen employees become victimized
Hmm.
because of such things, up to stylishly inducing them to exit, and what have you. Well, this is where we are. We find ourselves in this kind of environment. The point is this is because of such things, the Nigeria Industrial Court is also protective of the employees. So it's very important that you're not terminated wrongfully. And if you are, please feel free, and you have your evidence, feel free to go to court. We found, I mean, there was a case that was going around recently. I don't know if you remember the case of, I think was it one of the banks or one of the big organizations where one of the EDs of the organization was alleged to have drugged a junior staff
Hmm.
and took her to the hotel, slept with her, and she voiced out. I mean, it went viral and what have you. And at the end of the day, it's possible from a grapevine that it was said that he's been doing that, and nobody really has spoken up. But at the end of the day, what happened? The organization had to disassociate themselves from him, and the law took its course. So speak out about it. Yes, I know that most times, because of the environment we are in, we get to be stigmatized, but you
Yeah.
need to speak out about it.
Right.
Speak out.
All right.
Yeah.
Quickly before we go in less than a minute, I know as a result of the economic crisis in Nigeria, companies are trimming down their workforce, work time, and all that, and people are just trying to just keep around the people that actually matter, or should I say, one person who can multitask and do like 3 or 4 people's tasks. So my question is, how do employment contracts, how do they balance the need of employers and employees in terms of flexibility, job security, and other benefits?
Hmm. Okay, so for me, once the contract stands, I mean, a contract stands, and the contract should always, like I said initially, guide your relationship. But when it comes to issues about how to adjust to cost of living as a result of all the situation we find ourselves right now in Nigeria, I don't think that has to do so much with your contract. It's more about what is right to do. And employers are reacting in many ways to see how they can keep their employees. So it's not a matter of, well, in the contract it says that the person gets salary review in 3 months. I mean, I don't think There's always anything like that in any employment contract. But let's just assume that that says you get reviewed in 3 months, and yet, as at the time of employment, your petrol was sold at 500 naira. Now is 1,000 naira. Of course, the cost of living has increased. So it only behoves the organization to look at it in such ways and have a kind of review, which we call COLA, cost of living alleviation kind of increment, if they can afford it. A lot of organizations are using many practical ways to address this. You begin to see, like in my organization, most of my most of my staff are working remotely, even though we did a slight review. But I mean, the slight review we did is not even enough to accommodate what the standard of living. So we had to, increase for some their numbers of off days, working hybrid, for most remote, and it's worked. So organizations are looking for practical ways to ensure that it's a win-win for both parties, for both organization and both and for the organization and the employee.
All
Of
right.
course, where if you are able to do the remote work and hybrid, organization also reduces its cost of running expenses of the office,
All right.
And what have you. So
Okay.
it has nothing really to do with your contract. It's just one of those things that must be done,
Right.
to keep the employee.
There are still a lot of questions we need to get answers to, but our time is fast spent. And I'll just use this opportunity to say we would love to have you join us again, Seyi Olulade, to have a continuation of this conversation. When you're free, we'd definitely love to have you again.
That's not a problem. I'm always here for you.
Thank you.
I'm always here for you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
very
much
much for having
joining
me.
us this morning. It's been a
Thank
delight.
you.
Right. Thank you so much.
All right.
Enjoy the rest of your
You're
day.
welcome.
Right.